Hello and welcome to Prayers and Soaps. I'm Eric, joined once again with
Karen.
Aaron. Bring me some more Ryan's Hope, episode 66 to 70. Tell me roll the credits, I won't chat. Dude, as I'm watching like Frank, I'm like, how did this poor actor lay in this bed for a straight? We're at like 4 months in at this point. Like this poor
It's
guy.
it's either the best thing ever because you just lay there and you're just chilling all day, or it's the worst thing ever if you're like an energetic person and you're just like, I've been in the bed for
Right.
18 hours and I'd like to pee now. Let me out of
That's
this
what I'm
bed.
That's what I'm thinking. He's like, "Oh, I gotta go lay. I wonder if he like wanted to quit because I'm like, by now I'd be like, dude, I just lay in this fucking bed. Been in the hospital since day one. It's episode 66. Like that's crazy.
But luckily, he's in every flashback, so it's not like he's always laying in the bed, but it's like a
Yeah, but
billion
there
flashbacks.
wasn't like that many flashbacks to be like. Even in flashbacks, he's in bed with Jill. He's in, like he's in bed with Delia. Like, so he's
He's
always laying
always in
down.
bed.
I would really like to talk to this actor. Anyway, episode 66. Nell's headache intensifies with as she's with Seneca, which he probably helped cause it, even though she does have aneurysms that are
I
about to
think
explode in her
it's a
head.
stress tension headache. I think he will not stop.
He won't.
I hate him. I hate Seneca.
I like him, but I don't like him for Nell, and I feel like whatever. I like the conflict. Excuse me.
I like the
Um,
conflict. I just don't like Seneca because I think he's a controlling ass.
She asks him to find Ed for her, and he's like, "Why?" and whatever. And then he ends up going to get Ed. He's like, "Why don't we leave you alone?" So he grabs a nurse to help her or whatever while he goes to find him.
He's like, why can't it be me?
Uh,
Why do you need Ed? Why can't it be me? Why can't I do it?
Deal Delia is at the campaign headquarters for Frank, and she wants something to do. So I feel like he gives her like some little stupid thing to do or whatever. Jill comes by. She makes her snide remarks. Delia does about Jill, obviously, because Jill's there. She's like, "Oh, it's nice that you always have time to visit my husband." I didn't understand what the Nick and Roger, like Nick and Herbie stuff was. Do you understand what was going on with that?
What? Who's Herbie? Which one was?
Herbie was the guy with Nick, and they were talking
Oh,
about
because he's the
Roger.
guy that dropped the bowling ball on Roger's foot and broke his toes.
Oh, so is that what they wanted to do again? He wanted to like hurt him again,
He was
or
threatening him. He was threatening him. They were all threatening. See, this is the thing. The conversation that happens with Roger, Nick Szabo, and Herbie is like Roger's up right now. And they don't want him to be up because they make money when people are down.
right?
So they were kind of like
Because he
telling
paid him
him,
off
yeah,
with
because he paid them off
Frank's
with
money.
money and then he was up winning. Like he's been making crazy bets and he's been winning. So they're pissed because they can't make any money. So that's why they
Okay.
were kind of encouraging Nick was encouraging him to go further with his BS story about a guy who made crazy bets and made mad cash because he wants Roger to be back in his pocket now with money. And Herbie was threatening him because Herbie is Nick's enforcer. And that's just what that guy does.
All right.
He's like, oh, yeah, you need to pay your bills or I show up and I break more of your toes.
So Ed examines now. They send Seneca off. She says something like, "Is the aneurysm leaking? Maybe like it could be something like that. I don't know."
He's just like,
Um,
yeah, I think that guy stressed you out. Take some Tylenol, let's see.
Seneca worries about Nell, determined to know what's going on with her. Ed says, "Leave her alone." Um, Delia wants to get interviewed on the TV show, whatever they're doing. Jill thinks she can't handle it, which
Can't.
clearly we know she can't.
He doesn't know anything.
No. Bob says you both should do it. Jill worries, like, what questions will be asked, and she starts questioning Delia. Um, and Jill says she won't let Delia ruin Frank's campaign. And Delia said, "Well, I will fight for my marriage." And that's how that one ended. Anything about that episode, or
I
continue on?
think what you need to understand is that Delia went to the campaign headquarters because she wants to look like she's doing something to help Frank. She doesn't
Right.
She doesn't want anything big or anything difficult or anything hard. She just wants something that kind of throws her into the public eye as Frank's wife, because she's trying to
Put
make a point
stamps
that
on envelopes.
yeah,
And whatnot.
and the interview would have been a great opportunity for them to see Frank's wife on television and for her to look pretty on TV and for people to say nice things about her, which is what she wants. Jill's right, but Jill is also a jerk because she is sleeping with that woman's husband and throwing stuff in her face all the time, like, well, you don't know anything about Frank and you don't know anything about his interests. It's like, girl, because you pushed her out. So, like,
Right.
it to me, like, as much as Delia is wacky, Jill's a villain because she came into somebody else's marriage and crapped all over those vows. And yes, she did it with Frank, and he also sucks. But like, this is
Right.
the harmed party is Delia. And Jill acts like Delia is insane for wanting her own husband.
Yeah. It's true. I agree with that.
And
But
Reed,
I do like their conflict as well though.
yeah, it's not
What's
that
that?
it's not that I don't like the conflict. I love the conflict. It's really well written. I think it's great.
Yeah. It is.
Also, Bob Reed is completely ignoring everything that happens around him. This guy is a cop. He's a cop. Read the room, bro.
I know, right? So episode 67. Frank asked Johnny to trust him about the money and all that stuff because he's pressing about the $6,500, which we're still not letting go of here.
It's a lot of money.
He worries about what Jack will do because I wish they would just lie at this point. Like I feel like they're not lying correctly because like this is why Jack is like still questioning it. Like I feel like if you would have had like a good lie, like it would have been good, but they just like evade and it's just like I can't say anything.
They're
Like,
dumb.
well, clearly there's something wrong. Like so,
Yeah.
Jack's gonna keep nudging as we see that he does. Jack talks to some lady, I don't know who she was, about the $6,500. Maybe it was like a hospital staff. I don't know who it was. Seneca questions Bucky about now.
Oh, it was Mrs. Morris, wasn't it? Was it Mrs. Morris? Because I
Maybe.
know Jack asked her.
Oh, on the phone. And it sounds like almost like he had flirted with her in the past. Probably needed information about something.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was kind of flirty with him. So Seneca questions Bucky about Nell, tells him about her headache, and he's basically like, can't tell you what's going on, sorry.
Yeah, that was upsetting. Because Seneca is putting everybody in the middle of this scenario because he can't force his wife to do what he wants her to do.
Yeah. Jack goes to see Frank about the $6,500. Was it really your money? Was it like the life savings, like you said? And something who got. Oh, he's like, do you know who has the money? And like again, Frank's not saying. I feel like if he would have given a definitive answer, Jack probably would leave it alone, but he's not.
He tells them. Doesn't he tell them the basic story of what happened to the $6,500, that he lent it to a friend?
Yeah, but he takes his time with it. Like I just feel like you got to be quick. Like you should have had a plan like day one. Like, oh, we're gonna know what to say about this because
he was pushed down a stairwell and fell into a coma. So maybe day 2.
Yeah, well, when he woke up from his coma 60 days later. Jill comes in and goes off on Jack. Bucky visits Nell and questions her about her headaches. He tells her about Seneca asking questions, which of course upsets her. Jill kicks Jack out. Jill fills Frank in on the interview, the TV interview that's happening, whatever.
The one that Delia turned the TV off on.
Yeah, that was funny. I don't know when that's coming up. But Jack finds out Jill visits Frank frequently.
Yes, from Mrs.
So now Jack is on to that as they could. Well, no, was that from I thought that was from the nurse at the hospital.
Yeah, that's her name,
one.
Mrs. Morris.
Is that her name?
Jack cons Mrs. Morris into admitting how often Jill is there. I wrote notes down.
You really are pushing Mrs. Morris this morning.
No. Listen. I'm watching this thing and I'm writing notes. I'm also doing. I'm doing stuff.
This is funny. I didn't catch her name. You're like Mrs. Morris. I'm like, okay, Mrs. Morris. All right.
Just who it is. But anyway, I don't really care about the Jill storyline because Jill has been acting like a rat terrier about this. Like she's literally like always in front of Frank, always like she should just wear a placard around her that says I am sleeping with Frank because that's how she's acting. So I don't really, this feels like big giant revelations, but it's like Jack's already kind of been put onto this trail and he's not going to let it go. She just keeps confirming it with her behavior. And then when the other nurse, Mrs. Morris, says that, oh yeah, she's here every 5 minutes, then yeah, Jack's like, okay, I got it. And actually, Jill is there to talk to Frank before she goes to the interview, and then I think she comes back after. The only other thing I want to talk about in this episode is I wrote down what Nell said about Seneca.
Go for it.
Because okay, so this conversation with Bucky and Nell. Bucky is like, but don't you just love Seneca? Isn't that why all of this is happening? Don't you just want to tell Seneca? And like, if you tell Seneca, I'll make like, it's like Bucky can't hear the truth is that Seneca's too much. He's too controlling. And Nell wanted to make her own life about her and her own death about her and not about Seneca. So she says that. And she actually says, I've wasted an inordinate amount of time worrying about Seneca. Yes, exactly. Like she just keeps saying, she's like, Bucky, it was too intense and I never got to do anything about me.
Yeah, and I guess he sees the good in Seneca because he's helping him out. He's actually nice to him. He's like, I won't bring this up again. Like he's pushing his like nice side to Bucky, so it's making him look better to him than. But so he's like, he thinks that he is caring about now, which he probably is in his own way, but he's also trying to find out the information.
I think I've said this.
But Bucky doesn't see that.
Seneca cares about Nell as if Nell is something he owns and wants to take care of. He talks about her more like she's a pet that is not obeying him than an individual person who has her own wants and needs. Now, Bucky sees this as normal, number one, because this is the 70s, but also number two, because Bucky also believes in obsessive owning love because that's how he's been acting towards Faith. So for him, this is the greatest love of all. And Nell should just give in to the love. And don't you want to let Seneca control everything about you because that's taking care of her and that's love for him.
I also think Bucky is actually doing the right thing with Faith in this next situation, which we'll talk about. But like,
yes, me too.
He can't win. I feel like
no, he can't win for trying. And the thing is I really like
can't.
Bucky. I think Bucky's had some bad relationships modeled to him, and he's muddling through the best he can because it looks like his parents are. Oh, I keep eating my hair. His parents didn't seem to understand him or want him to be a doctor. So obviously, Nell and Seneca's relationship is like he wanted to be like Nell. He wanted to be a doctor. So like the love affair he was watching was their marriage. So he's probably modeling his ideas of marriage on this greatest love of all that Seneca and Nell had, not noticing how controlling and imbalanced it was.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess because they didn't like live together or whatever. They're rich people with problems.
You see it from the outside, and you go, "They look so happy. They look so wonderful." And meanwhile, on the inside,
because Nell was doing everything for him and being the doting wife, which we know, and that's probably what he saw.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't see the bad side of that till now.
Well, he was also a kid, so.
So episode 68, and we're gonna get into Faith right now. Delia, it starts out with Delia fighting with the vacuum cleaner. Jack comes by. I know, me too. I like that stuff too. It's smart writing when they do stuff like that.
I wrote "same girl" in my notes. I hate my vacuum.
Me too, man. Or you like plug it in and you forget you plug it to the one with the switch, so then you're like, and you think, whatever. It just happened to me this week. Anyway, Jack comes by and he asks a bunch of questions about Jill and the affair, and she tries to cover it up. But Delia is definitely not good at covering shit up. So of course, if he gets more questions, whatever. She tries.
She also lies and makes up a whole story, a whole
but it's really not good. It's like
she made it worse. She made it much worse.
It's the worst.
Poor Delia. I was like, Delia, just shut up. Don't answer.
Right? Like Jill handled him great.
See, Delia needs her own lawyer to sleep with.
She needs something. Clem fills Faith in on Bucky's family being rich and that he would inherit like $24 million if anything, whatever
He
were to
said
happen. I
not to
guess
tell anyone, and Clem immediately went and told people.
told me.
Again,
I mean,
Clem,
don't we
he's the
all?
real one. He's the real one.
Don't we all?
Yeah,
Faith
but
and Ed talk.
Faith tears down Bucky because she says to Clem that he's worth more than Bucky because he earned it, and Bucky just had things handed to him. That was really ignorant.
That's our Faith.
Yeah.
That's our girl. She always, does
Yeah, but not that
that.
Clem didn't deserve it. But like,
Right.
why did she feel the need to compare the two and like elevate one and crap on the other, and then say she wants to stay friends with Bucky? Like, she's confusing.
Very. So Faith and Ed talk. She apologizes about now. When she had like said inadvertently to Bucky and all that stuff, and he's like, and then he pushes her away again. She's like wants to do dinner and just bond with her father, and he's like, oh, maybe this weekend. So I know this is going to lead to something. I feel like because he does seem to neglect his children.
I don't know if he does it on purpose. I think he thinks they're all adults and that it's no big deal, but he's a little patronizing when it comes to her.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, girl, your problems aren't real problems. I'll see you on Saturday. And she's like, but I'm having issues now.
No, what was worse, he's like, oh, you're young and pretty. You can deal with it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what?
Exactly. Like, what is that?
Pat comes by and actually says house tricks to Faith, and I was like, Emma on our Falcon Crest says that.
Yeah, it's a favorite thing to hear.
House tricks. Back to Delia and Jack, says that it was all a rumor. He says he knows. He's like, how long has it been? He knows everybody's been lying, blah, blah, blah. The $6,500 he asked about, Nick Szabo. He says he will find out what's going on no matter what he's got to do. Pat compliments Faith's hair, and because I guess she got her haircut. I don't know when she had time. She talks about feeling isolated between her family and with Bucky and whatever. Faith problems. I had to say it like this. Jack and Jill talk about her affair with Frank.
Perfect.
Now this is she handled him great. She's like, get out, get out, get out, get out. I'm not telling you anything. She denies the Nick connection. He's like, I know everything. She pushes him out. She's like, nope, doesn't answer any questions.
Go away.
No, nothing. Leave me alone. I'm like, no, Delia, you can learn some things, girl. Episode 69. Frank continues physical therapy. He's like, is that when he? No, that's later. Maeve visits. She's like, it takes time to get better. He's like pushing. He can't like move his hand up a certain point.
When Maeve gets there, Frank is doing the thing you do when you're upset about something, but you're trying to push through. He's like, saying like, I suck at everything. Here I am. Look at me. I can move one stupid finger. And it's really funny. It actually humanizes Frank a lot. And Maeve comes in like a righteous Irish mother, and she starts yelling like, you were in a coma last week. None of this is funny. Get your crap together, and you're doing it, and you need to give yourself some credit and stop talking crap on yourself. And I like it, like, because I like that she has faith in him, but at the same time, that kind of humor is how you deal with scenarios like that. So it was like kind of
agreed.
I agreed with both of them. Somewhere in the middle is probably the better.
Yeah. Oh, and I like that she says, are you hooked on these soap operas? I love when they do that. I'm like, oh yeah. And Frank's just frustrated that he can't do much yet.
I would be too. Because remember, from Frank's point of view, he was fine, and then he woke up and he couldn't move at all. Like, that's how his brain makes the connection. So he went from 100 to 0 overnight, as far as he's
Faith turns up at Ryan's bar. Pat's there with this nurse or something named Sybil. They start playing darts, and she gets really weird, and she just like gets like uncomfortable feeling and whatever.
Because Pat's a hoe.
And well, yeah, but she
There's
knows
nothing wrong
this.
with that. He's not lying about it. He likes to go out
No.
and date all the girls. He has a hospital full of nurses he wants to date. He's not
And
lying to anyone.
Jill visits Frank and tells him about Jack knowing everything and all that. And so she's getting ready to go on TV.
TV.
To do the interview for his campaign or whatever it is. Maeve and Faith talk. She talks about Pat having like energy and all of this stuff, and like even Maeve.
She calls him a bee.
Well, Maeve tries to like talk about something else, and Faith just keeps going on about Pat. I guess she calls him a honeybee. Maeve does.
Going to all the flowers.
She tells a story about bees. Yeah. I mean, he's a ladies' man and he's a handsome boy. Like, why not? Like,
he's also not lying to anyone. Everyone who dates him knows this is his MO. So they go out with him to have fun and they're not expecting to have a relationship.
Right. Like the one girl he was dancing with the one time, this one he's playing darts with.
He was even trying to set that girl up with Bucky. He's like, well, if I, whatever, if you want a girl to make Faith jealous, here's a nice girl.
I wasn't sure if like Faith wanted to be him or if she liked him, but now we find out that she actually does like him.
It's like she developed a strange crush overnight.
Oh my god! Well, I feel like it's been happening because I feel like that was like that with that girl dancing too. She was like jealous of that girl that she couldn't be like her, and then like she was. I don't know. You don't know with Faith. She's crazy.
Yeah, I wrote my notes. Faith in love with Pat tells Jill.
Yeah, I like that we had some sister bonding. That was fun. That's in the next one.
Yeah.
Jill does great on the TV interview for Frank. Delia visits. Go ahead, you can talk about it. I know you want to.
Delia visits, and she is mad that Jill is on the TV while she's there because she said to him, "We had an agreement, no Jill in the room while I'm in the room." And he goes, "It's the damn TV." And he's doing an interview for me, and she's like, "No," and she shuts it off. And Frank is so spiteful and angry at her that he moves his whole hand to turn the TV back on. And I was like, that is how you heal from everything. Spite and rage.
Mm-hmm. He did. He was like shaking and he pulled his hand up and she was like in shock.
Yeah.
And then she just blocked the TV with herself.
She was like, I'm not losing this argument to Jill.
Right. Yeah, he puts the TV back on. She blocks it. And she said something like, Jill's going to give you trouble, Frank. And that's how that one ended. I think both of them are giving him trouble right now, but I mean,
well,
whatever. He's trapped in bed.
And you get what you get because he could have divorced Dee before he started any of this nonsense, especially since he's running for office. It's stupid to be having an affair that you could easily be caught out on because Jill is not
right.
When you're running for office. You're supposed to hide that crap if you're a scumbag.
Yeah.
Or at least everyone involved should know and have some sort of understanding.
So they can cover it up.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just a jerk.
So in episode 70, this is where it starts out with Faith congratulating Jill on her TV interview. She did great, and she got her some book. I guess I don't know what book it was.
I don't remember.
I didn't know if you knew it was like who it was or whatever.
No, I don't. I wasn't paying that close attention.
But they both like laughed. I'm assuming it was something like from childhood or something that they read stories on or whatever. But it was a cute moment between them.
I catch everything. Sometimes I catch the poetry.
But it was nice because Faith needs a friend or someone like a sister that
Faith
cares about her.
Friends that are girls. She needs friends who are girls, not boys.
Yeah, I agree.
Because she is going through something that I think she needs girlfriends to be like, what the hell are you doing?
Where she asks her own sister if she thinks she's sexy. And I was like, oh.
Bizarre. That's a bizarre thing. Because your sister automatically should say, no, you're the ugliest human being I've ever seen. Because if you're not making fun of your siblings, what are you doing?
But Jill knows how to handle her well because she's like, yeah, of course you are. Like,
Sure, you're whatever. Weirdo.
Yeah. And then I think Faith said something like, yeah, the Snow Queen is going to melt or something like that. Because I guess they call her Snow Queen.
Yeah, and she keeps hitting around.
I remember they did that. I remember they did that in like earlier in these episodes or like in the first like 10 episodes, I feel like they called her a snow queen. I think Pat actually called her
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they make a lot of jokes about her being frigid because she's not sleeping around. It's great. The 70s are great.
And we find out that she wants Pat. Because I
Find
think
out,
Joe
or we
mentions,
should have known.
well, officially, she says she wants Pat. She's like, I just want to throw my arms around somebody and whatever. And she's like, oh, something about Bucky. But she's like, no, I want Pat. I was like, oh shit, it's out. Mary helps Frank on whatever, I guess with physical therapy, and he's on this bed thing as usual.
Yep.
And he's like pulled up. I don't know what these therapy things are doing. Shouldn't he be like sitting by now? Like, was he in a wheelchair yet? That you
I
know?
I don't remember seeing him in a wheelchair, but I mean, we have
Me
different
neither.
methods now. It seems like they're just manipulating his arms to give him exercise, but in like
Maybe he can't even sit yet.
physical therapy, I think they would have made him sit up because it would have been better for his lungs, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's probably why they raised them to do the physical
Yeah,
therapy. Like they pulled his bed at an angle.
yeah, but
I
he's
don't
not
know.
even at 90 degrees yet. He's still like leaning
Mm-mm.
back at 45, and like I'm not a doctor, so if you're a doctor from the 70s, could you let me know what the hell they're doing?
Because I don't think they do whatever they're doing now anymore.
I don't think so. Well, I mean, they don't yell at you to get over it if you've had an abortion.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Carriage,
General Hospital. That's General Hospital, 1983.
yeah, I had a miscarriage that literally hours later they're like, you should stop crying and be over it by now.
Yeah, and a nurse said it. I don't want to say what nurse because I love her so much, but
Spoilers for the 80s.
um, so we find out Mary, of course, is still supporting her brother.
Mm-hmm.
She'll do whatever, she believes him and all that stuff still, she says. But I still think she's doubting him. She's just afraid to. I feel like, or doesn't want to know the truth.
It's really hard if somebody's a pillar in your life like that to have that faith shaken. So she's going to push back against that for a while. She's not going to want to accept that Frank is not the perfect person she's led herself to believe he is.
But Jack's going to get the truth. We know it. It's going to be great.
He is a good
Sad for them.
reporter. He really is. I mean, as much as you want to hate him for being like mean characters, he's a good reporter.
I don't hate him. He's trying to find the truth.
I like him.
And he will.
Because
I like him.
I think he's crazy the way he goes about it sometimes, but his methods work, so I can't really complain.
Yeah. I think he's crazy to think that Mary's going to be okay with it when he already knows how crazy she is with.
Again, she's a woman. Why would she have opinions of her own?
So this is the apology that we've been waiting for. Faith and Nell finally talk, and she apologizes to Nell. Mm-hmm. She only apologizes. Well, she doesn't apologize for being a bitch to her like all the time, which is nice.
Yeah, but she did say she came in and she's like, "I'm sorry, I'm late," and Nell was just like 90 seconds. I don't think we really need to worry about that. Like,
right.
And she's like, "I'm sorry, I was awful to you earlier," and Nell's like, "Hey, no problem." Like, she just lets it go. She doesn't even.
And about the Bucky thing, like just spreading it by accident. She's like, I didn't mean that, I didn't mean that any harm intent. Like she didn't know anything, whatever. And they shake hands on it, and Bucky comes in, and he's like, "Oh wow, this is fun."
Basically. I just walked in on you being friends with everyone but me. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, now they're friends, and then like she just asks her not to tell Seneca, and Faith's like, "Yeah, no, I'm good. Like I won't do it. Whatever." Faith and Bucky talk. She's like, "Are we friends now?" He's like, he was pushing her away a little bit, and he's like, "Fine, we're friends." And then I feel like she keeps pushing it, and then he gets mad or something.
I don't think that was fair of her. She is not giving him enough time to get used to the change in their relationship status because he was going to love, marriage, and whatever, and she was against that, and he gave her space, but now she won't give him space because she wants to put him in the friend box. And he's not ready for that yet. He needs to lick his wounds and heal. And she's like, no, but we need to go back to the way we were before when it was me, you, and Pat, and all the time this. And Bucky's like, well, maybe not. But we're friends.
And that gets her upset. And Pat comes over and he talks to her. She's crying. He's like, who do I have to punch for you? Like, what do I got to do? And he starts cheering her up a little bit.
Hmm.
Faith asks him to go to lunch at her place. I was like, oh, girl, she wants to get him.
Yeah, she wanted to discuss the situation with all their friendships. And, it's fucking, and, so, and
I guess
it's weird because it is really like asking him on a date. Like that's very much like what she's doing. He notices and he goes to Bucky to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. He tries to talk to Bucky.
Yeah.
And Bucky says he can't repair a relationship that wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So then Pat's like, all right, I guess I'm good. So he goes to Faith and he says yes to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see if they do anything at lunch. And I'm a little afraid like that Faith might try to come on to him and it's gonna go awkward. But
I can't see it not going awkward. Faith is involved.
Same. Now bus Seneca with her X-rays.
Yes, Seneca was seen in her room earlier. He's in her office, tearing her office apart.
Mm-hmm.
So terrible. And then he finds her X-rays and she catches him red-handed. And she's just turning the lights out so he can't look at the X-rays. He starts yelling at her. He's like, turn the light back on in that X-ray. And he starts yelling at her.
She's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, like legit.
Jack comes in to see Frank. He brings up the affair with Jill. And he wants to know the rest of the story. And that's how that ended.
There is one more thing, like when Mary Ryan was talking to Frank, she mentioned a letter from Kathleen.
That's true.
I'm making note of all the mentions of the other two sisters because both
Siobhan and Kathleen
were mentioned this section of episodes. And this one she was literally reading a letter from Kathleen to him. And I wonder if they're both coming on or if we're going to get Kathleen first and then Siobhan later, because Kathleen has been the number one they've been mentioning.
And I want to ask, Lemon Lady, when are they coming? You can tell us that. That won't spoil anything. No. I want to know what year. It might be like a year from now. Did they come in 1975? Did they come in 1976? Does one of them come? Does both of them come? I feel like one of them.
Yeah.
I feel like they should be on the phone with them, like giving Frank updates or something.
They haven't.
Yeah, but they should be on the phone with them.
Well, we've done a letter. Right,
we got a letter.
It's the 70s, so maybe they're in an area where the phone service isn't that great.
I think they mentioned talking to one of them on the phone at one point. They just said, I talked to Kathleen or whatever one wasn't.
They did say the one was, they hadn't heard from the one for a few days.
Yeah.
So I don't
Siobhan,
know.
Maybe.
I don't know if that's the one they got the letter from or not, because they were like, well, where would she be that she wasn't near a phone? And if she's not home, if she's traveling to town, then maybe that's why they haven't been able to get her on the phone.
Yeah.
I love the idea of bringing on more and maybe having more troublemaking Ryans around.
Mm-hmm.
Because these ones that are on now are very close knit with one another, and they're all getting along well, except until Frank's indiscretions become out in the open, which I feel like his parents will support him. They'll just look at him with vague disapproval. But
I'm sure Maeve will have a story.
I think Maeve will have a story about some Irish guy who fell in a well somewhere. I think. I don't know if that's. But, she always seems like the stories about fish. That story about a fish was horrible and sexist, by the way. But like, they have all these stories that are just like folk myths or whatever.
The honeybee story was funny.
Is going to punch me because that's like a famous story or something.
We like the honeybee story.
That was the sweetest way of saying, my son, he is hoe.
Is a hoe. Yes.
But you know what? I can't be mad at somebody who's open about what they're doing. Like, he's not telling these girls they're his one and only and then cheating on them like someone else, Frank. He's literally saying, I'm not ready for a relationship. I'm not having any relationships. I'm just having fun. And anybody who wants to have fun is fine.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
So yeah, this was a good batch of episodes. I forget I think we're in November now. I believe.
I know what we are on SoapNet. We're at Christmas time on SoapNet because there were some.
Yeah. I actually watched the what is it?
Christmas
the the Santa Baby video that they did. Cassie DePaiva was singing.
Yeah. Yeah, we're watching copies that were from SoapNet. So
And I
it's
miss
kind of
SoapNet, so I love seeing them. And then did you see? We saw the one General Hospital clip when what's his name first came on, Sonny's son. What's his,
Morgan.
blanking on his name? No, Olivia.
Oh,
Son.
Dante.
Yeah, Dante. He looks like he's
12.
18. I'm like, oh my gosh. And Brandon Barish was on, and he was Johnny.
Oh,
He looked like he was like young too.
oh
'Cause
well,
we
we
saw him on my
were young
soap, and he's like
too.
40.
Young too, and we were like, "Oh, everybody, look, we're all adults." And like
I
now
know.
you look back on it, and you're like, "Babies."
But you know who looks the same? Liz. She don't look any younger, or any older.
I've been telling people for years that she's a vampire, and nobody will believe me because she looks incredible. And the other day, I know you're not up to date, but the other day she had her hair like she had it in 1995 or whatever.
Really?
Day she had like that.
Oh, that like
Really,
little bob, like a short.
it was like really wildly curled up, like she does every once in a while. And I'm like, she looks just like she did 25 years ago, and amazing.
If I meet her again, I'm gonna ask her what her skincare is. Like, I'm like, what do you do? Do you go for frequent facials? Like, what's your thing? What's your
It's like,
thing?
I'm a vampire. I can't go.
Because she's my age, and
She's beautiful.
yeah,
She is very beautiful. A lot of them, I think, look the same. I know Jeannie Francis's face always looks the same. Like, she just is really pretty. And I'd like to see what these people look like when they get the better makeup.
I mean, yeah, with Jeannie, yeah, I mean, she does. Oh, yeah, I guess she does look the same. But I'm just like, I know her younger face definitely is like you can tell when she's younger. But like with Liz, I feel like Liz looks exactly the same. Like if you watch a 97 episode, it's she can get like she just looks the same. It's crazy.
Like
same exact face.
A lot of them either have great plastic surgeons or great deals with the devil because these people look incredible.
Seriously.
Like when Rick came back on,
there's 5 kids of her, keep her young.
Right. But like when Rick came back on, if you had dyed his hair black, he would look identical to what he did in the 90s.
True.
Like
True.
I think these people don't see the sun. They're like they just do not see the sun. They never go outside, or they wear SPF 4000 when they go outside the house.
No, it made me mad. Well, not mad, but upset with because like the one character Cole came back on Young and the Restless. He was in you know him from Dynasty. You know him from his name's I think it's J. Eddie Peck is his name. He played on Dynasty. He was in the last season. He was the one that they killed in the pool when they had flashbacks of him.
That sounds
Alexis had the affair with him.
Oh,
yeah, we watched it a long time.
It was
and then he was also the asshole son of on Dallas. It was the sister that Bobby was dating that you didn't like. She played pool, but we loved her in Savannah. That girl.
Oh yeah, we did love her in Savannah. She was
her junkie brother on Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was like, he was horrible, but great actor. But so he comes back with gray hair. He looked amazing, and then he dyed his hair, and I'm like, but why? You look so good. You were like a silver fox. Why did you dye it? Like I almost feel like he felt pressured to dye it back to black. I'm like,
they might have asked
him.
They might have asked him to.
I hope they didn't, because he looked so good.
Some people look great, like Tad Martin. He looks great with the white hair. Like
he's a silver fox. Yeah,
he looks handsome. He's handsome. The beard was doing him no favors. Without the beard, he just looks like he always does. Like he looks.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's like he looks the same, but with white hair, and it's just really it's a good look. It's a good look for him.
So anyway, back to Ryan's Hope. Yeah, these were good episodes. Sorry, we can talk about soaps forever. We know this. This is why we're here. But yeah, it was good episodes. I'm looking forward to what's happening. Seneca's going to find out. That's going to be fun to see. Faith is going to have an awkward date with Pat. That's going to be fun to see and awkward. And I'm sure Karen will text me, "Oh, Faith."
I don't tell him what I'm watching or what I'm doing. I'll just text the line like Nathan, and like,
she'll just type Faith, and I'm like, what is she doing now?
my God. In this batch, I gotta tell you, when she was like, "I'm so lonely, I'm so isolated, nobody loves me, boo-hoo," and then Clem walks up and goes, "Hey, Faith, you want to get some coffee?" And she's like, "No."
Yeah, that was funny.
Clem was in their house for all of medical school, which is like what, like 8 years. He's like her
Yeah.
super brother. He comes up to her and he's like, "Let's go get." And she's like, "No," because she's obsessing about Pat. It was so Faith. I was like, Faith.
Why?
Also, poor Clem. He got the whole storyline where he was like, "All my friends that I went with, some of them are just loose ends, and some of them are playing basketball. Some of them are in prison." And I was like,
Oh,
"Come on, man."
another question for Lemon Lady. Does Clem get a love interest? I'm just curious.
Oh,
I
he
would like
should.
him to have a love interest.
I would like him to have his own storyline.
Yeah. I mean,
He's
I,
kind
I know. I would like that too.
Him and the nurse. What's her name?
Oh, she hasn't been
Nurse.
on for a while.
Oh my
I
God,
know that nurse hangs around because I remember Anna Alicia when she joins. I think that nurse is in charge of her or something.
what her name?
I
And
think I
I'm
remember some.
terrible because I say her name like 8,000 times in earlier episodes, and my brain
I
goes,
know, me too. But she hasn't been on,
"The
so we
Christmas
forget.
time," and our brains are scrambled.
It's because we watch too many soaps.
I know, but I like her, and I don't understand why. Like, I need these characters. I know you have to have peripheral characters, obviously, but like they're interesting, and I want to know who's her
Is it
family.
Nurse? Is it Nurse Gonzalez?
Probably.
No.
I know it's Spanish because she was the one that was speaking Spanish with the patient, and
Yeah,
Nell
yeah,
heard, and the patient was insulting Nell. She's
yeah.
like, "She always like this with her big feelings."
Well, hopefully she'll be in the next batch.
Yeah, so I want to see what like I would like to see more about Clem, because if Clem was raised in this house, like he's basically a bonus Coleridge, so he should be having more storylines than he is. But it's also early days.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, um, thanks for joining us today with Queers and Soaps. We'll bring you more Ryan Soap in the future, probably not till the new year because we got a lot going on and Christmas is coming and Happy New Year and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and whatever you celebrate. Um, subscribe, like, and comment on our stuff. Let us know what else you want us to do in the new year. And we'll see you soon, everyone. Bye.